From the studios of Foxboro Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Hi, Steve Uden here again. Welcome to another very interesting and I think important episode of Around Foxborough. I'd like to thank our producer, Jerry Love, for bringing us these two very interesting guests, and our engineer, Paul Beck, for keeping the show running along. I'm going to go right into it here. I'd like to thank you for coming.
Thank you, Steve.
And ask you politely if you would tell us your name and your title and the organization, because I didn't tell folks yet in the intro what the organization is.
Sure.
And what we do.
Sure. Well, Steve, first of all, I want to say thank you for having us on your program. My name is Nicole Stewart, and I am the Executive Director for Boston CASA. I've been with Boston CASA for 4 years, since 2022. Time goes by so quickly, I know. Before coming to Boston CASA, I had my own nonprofit where I was supporting young girls in foster care, ages 16 to 22 years old, working with them on leadership development and providing mentorship for them. And I spent a good part of my career in the world of nonprofit.
Really?
As a leader, executive director for Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston. And prior to that, I spent nearly 20 years, I know I don't look that old, but spent nearly 20 years.
What do we do with that?
That is fine.
I'm just keeping my mouth shut. But so for in the past
Nearly
20
years I spent in educational leadership.
Okay.
I am a proud alumna of Boston College.
There you go.
Earned my master's from Boston College and another master's degree from Simmons University. But before all of that, I was formerly a foster child. And I grew up in the foster care system from the age of 3 until I aged out at 22 years old. So that is why the work of Boston CASA is so personal to me, and it means so much, because I really do understand what it means to have a consistent and caring adult in your life and the difference that it makes. And that's why I value our CASA volunteers so much in the work that they do.
What a blessing, and what credentials could possibly top that for CASA? What I'd like to know is, CASA is an acronym. Could you tell me what CASA stands for?
Absolutely. Court-appointed special advocates.
Court-appointed special advocate.
Yes.
And can you explain a little bit, or should maybe we go to our friend here and your colleague Marlo and have him explain it? How would you like to carry that out?
Sure, I can do that.
Marlo, Steve Uden, it's nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
We love having Nicole here, and my goodness, we could do this for an hour if I had my way. What is a court-appointed
Special
advocate?
Special advocate.
Yeah. So when
Because
kids,
you are one.
I am one. I've been one for 10 years with Boston CASA. I guess when kids are brought into the juvenile court system, and DCF, Department of Children for Families, has some responsibility for their care and for their care, then oftentimes a judge, in looking at each child's case, sometimes will decide that he'd like to have a court-appointed special advocate assigned. That's someone that's going to give him advice in a quarterly report after learning about the child and looking at all the things that are going on around them, to provide some input on what we see as what's in the best interest of the child. Are they getting the services that they need? Is DCF doing the things that they should be? Just an objective view of what we see going around the child, and our input in terms of what we think would be in the best interest that the judge should take into consideration.
So it's like a clinical relationship, but there must, if I'm not wrong, a bond that forms between you and what we would refer them as your clients. Is that what we'd call these children? Clients?
Well, we call them kiddos, really.
Okay,
as the
fair enough.
common term.
So,
kids.
if you're working with the kiddos, do you Do you get to know them and their families or their neighbors or the caregivers or even their doctors and maybe mental health?
That's absolutely the key. And one of the things that's unique about Boston CASA that Nicole could talk some more about is that each volunteer is assigned to just one child and to stay with that one child the length of time that they're in the court system. And often that's 2 years or longer. And I've been a CASA for 8 kids, and on the average, they've been range from 1.5 years to 4 years. And now you get to know the child because you're going to see them a couple of times a month or more, and you're going to meet their guardians or their parents, their teachers, some of their caregivers. And so you very much not only get to know them, and it takes a while before they accept you and you get a real bond occurs. It literally can take 6 months or longer. But often that happens, and then you become a trusted adult and friend to that child while you're also playing a role of providing input and advice on are they getting what they need and is going to help them thrive.
So that's an enormous amount of loving and intelligent and, dare I say, bureaucratic work for the volunteer, right?
Yes, but it's the bureaucratic part is much less than you think. One of the things that's really surprised me and I've been pleased about is the relatively small amount of time. I mean, you're seeing the child twice a month. You may be attending some meetings at the school, and a lot of the meetings now are virtual or court hearings, but the only bureaucratic part is every 3 months, providing a report to the judge, and here's what you see going on with the case, and here's kind of your input in terms of what you see going on and what you think is going to be the best interest. But more of the activity is just engaging with the caregivers and the people around them in the meetings and the child themselves. That's the most valuable and enjoyable part.
As executive director, Nicole, you must also have huge administrative tasks helping and supporting and training the volunteers for this. Is it an organization or is the kiddo sentenced to this?
No, well, let me just back up and say that for children, when they are removed from their homes, they're thrust into the court and the child welfare system. And in that process, as you can imagine, it's very isolating for children, it's overwhelming, it's traumatic, and this is where our CASAs come into play. So the bureaucracy that you had mentioned, it's really not that our CASAs have to navigate that bureaucracy, but our kids are thrust into this system of bureaucracy. And so the uniqueness about our CASAs and them only serving one child at a time, unlike any other person who's working with them, from the social worker to the attorneys, the judges, everyone else has multiple children on their cases.
I was going to say the caseloads must be huge for some of these other
They
kiddos.
are.
Yeah.
And so that's the important work that CASAs do, is that they're just working one-to-one with that child. Boston CASA, we're a member of National CASA. And National CASA has somewhere around 939 programs across the country. Boston CASA is one of 6 in Massachusetts, and we represent Suffolk and Middlesex counties. But how the program got started back in 1977 in Seattle is because there was a child who came before a judge who was suffering from abuse, and the judge did not feel like he had sufficient information to make really big and important decisions about that child's life, and wanted volunteers to help and support to work with that child and everyone who is connected to the child, just only solely looking at that child's best interest. And that is how the program got started back in 1977. And so Boston CASA has, we've actually been a nonprofit, an independent nonprofit since 2012, but the program started in 1982 here in Suffolk County, under the Suffolk juvenile court system.
Once we get to the end and the show goes into editing, which we discussed before we began taping, are you funded by government, state, local, maybe even organizations like, say, the Masons or the Knights of Columbus or the Rotary or something like that? Where do you get your money? And I have never interviewed anybody that always hasn't needed more money for their cause. Can people just give like donations to CASA Boston or CASA, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or whatever? So we'll make sure that on the show we have that information. It's probably all on your website, which is bostoncasa.org. Am I correct?
Yes.
Wow, I can't believe I remembered that.
You're good.
So I'm sorry, if I may, what type of resources does a volunteer for the kiddos need from the administration to carry on something, even as mundane as, say, gas money to transport the child from one place to the other, one appointment to the other, one music lesson to the other? Is that how it works? Do you have some kind of budget for the child?
Well, the CASA volunteers, you start with, I think it's 40 hours of training, and maybe it's gone up, but when I had it was about 40 hours.
About 35.
Of training.
You took the long ride.
But then, by and large, there's in terms of support from the organization, you have a CASA supervisor who's a seasoned social worker that has other CASA volunteers that he or she stays in touch with, and you're as a CASA volunteer, you're touching base with your CASA supervisor and making them aware what you see, what's going on, getting a lot of good advice. And they're making sure that you're doing what you need to do, as well as providing great advice on how the system overall works. You have a lot of questions on what goes on with the whole DCF system.
So we understand a little bit now about the relationship of the volunteer and the CASA organization with the kiddo. As executive director, what do you need right now? Like, do you need 100 more volunteers because you have 100 potential candidates for, say, Boston CASA? Or like what is your, not an ask, but like if your dreams could come true, what would that be for the Boston CASA, at least at this time?
That's a great question. And when I started at the organization, we started a growth plan to serve more children.
Okay.
And so our growth plan, we started in 2023.
Okay.
It's almost a year after I got started. We are now in year 3 of this growth plan. So the growth plan is, when I first started, we were only serving under 15% of the total number of children who we could potentially serve, because our budget just simply does not allow for us to serve more children than that.
And the volunteer power that you needed, right? Like the actual human beings doing this.
So,
right?
So we recruit, we train, and we support. I have a full staff. Our volunteers. We are funded, I say 20% or so of our funding comes from state funding, and the rest is all philanthropic.
Really?
So year over year, our growth plan over the next 5 years through 2028 is that we want to go from serving roughly 15% of kids when I first started to almost 50% by 2028.
Okay.
It's a pretty bold, audacious goal.
Yeah, but it's necessary.
It is necessary, and I want to say that the response from our community, from volunteers to funders, has been absolutely phenomenal. So year over year, we have exceeded our growth goals of
terrific. Well done.
Serving more than 20% more children, and also raising 20% more in our funding in order to recruit more volunteers and to hire more staff to support those volunteers. So we're always looking for more volunteers because we're growing.
So how many current volunteers do we have?
Currently, we have over 200 volunteers.
Shazam, really?
In 2025, we served 326 children. Our goal for this year is to serve 479.
Is there any other organizations, and you don't need to name them if they're competing, but do the same type of work as CASA? It's more of a yes/no question.
There are organizations that we complement each other's work. But Boston CASA, we are the only organization in Suffolk and Middlesex counties that recruits, trains, supports volunteers to be court-appointed special advocates.
So as executive director, when we talked about like your wish is you definitely want to grow and keep the momentum of the growth that you're having, which you seem to be satisfied or maybe even happy with. We always want to reach for more.
Yes.
But where is CASA located, and do you need more offices or sites? Because, and I'm gonna say this about myself, and I'm embarrassed. Okay, I never heard of CASA, and now I'm like, this is an important organization, and it's needed. Do you need more exposure as well, or how do you get your message out to people that want to volunteer? And Marlo, do you try to get volunteers to come in, like, in a church, like, oh, you should sing in the choir with us, like it's nice.
Yeah, I do, but it's not easy. And the record is I'd never heard of Boston CASA 10 years ago, but when I first became a CASA, and the only reason I became aware of it is my sister. I'm from Connecticut, and my sister works for an organization just like Boston CASA. She's a court-appointed special advocate. They also call them guardian ad litums.
Yes.
She's a guardian ad litem for a similar organization in the New Haven area. And she talked about, what she was doing and what the organization did, and how over the years, this is kind of before I retired, and just listening to what she was talking about and the difference she could make caused me to, when I retired about 10 years ago, to reach out and see is there a similar organization here in the Boston area. And that's how I became aware of Boston CASA and then became a volunteer.
Where is, if I may, where's your office? Like, do you do it from home, or do you have a 42-story skyscraper that's the CASA Tower?
Not yet.
Not yet. I like that, right?
So we are located downtown Boston on Merrimack Street, 151 Merrimack Street.
Okay.
One of the things that we have been working on as part of our growth strategy is increasing our visibility, because you're not the first one, Marlo's not the first one, who was said, I've never heard of this organization. There are a lot of people who have not heard of Boston.
Yeah, we got to get
CASA.
that. We got to bang that drum.
So I want to give a plug and a shout out to Teak Media, who we are working with. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from one of our CASA volunteers who is supporting our PR for since April.
What was the name of the company? TC?
Teak Media, T-E-A-K.
Like the wood teak, like teak wood?
Yes.
Teak Media. Are they a local company, a local organization, or are they like a national media organization? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so they are local.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No problem. But since April of 2025, we have been on radio stations. We're here. We've been in newspapers. So I know that the word is getting out there, and more people are hearing about us and getting connected with the organization as a result of the PR work that we've been doing.
So the organization is growing, and it's on track for what your realistic expectations are, and you have remarkable people that volunteer for you. Have you ever had, we're calling them kiddos, and people watching know I'm being respectful. That's a term of art or trade that you use.
Term of art.
Have you ever? Yeah, well, there's a certain element of spirituality and art and love for your fellow man or woman or whatever. I think it's great. Have you ever had CASA participants circle back and go, I want to be part of this because I went through it? At whatever level, bronze, silver, or gold. Like some kiddos might need more help than others, right?
I haven't seen that yet, but you probably have more exposure.
Well, actually, it hasn't happened yet at that level where they've come back and they've become CASAs. But we did start a youth advisory board. We are in our 3rd year. And the goal is, because the statistics for kids who come out of foster care, they're really staggering. Just a little over 50% actually graduate from high school, 3 to 4% earn a 4-year college degree.
I'm sorry. How many, what's the percentage getting out of high school for a foster child?
Just a little over 50%.
A little over
56
50%.
or so percent.
And is that for Massachusetts or, say, a national average? I'm not
That's
trying to...
Massachusetts.
Okay.
But I would say the national average is probably around the same.
Okay. So...
But the statistics are staggering. And so we are putting a special focus on working with our, what we call transitional age youth. And those are kids from between the ages of 14 and 22 years old. But for our youth advisory board, it's just for young people 16 to 22. And it's a 10-month commitment for the kids who participate. We pay them a stipend, and we really try to help to launch them into the next, successfully launch them into the next stage of life, into adulthood. And part of that is connecting them also to the organization. Part of our goal is to connect them to the organization so that they understand the organization, you know, and what a CASA is and who these folks are. And that they can, you know, one day become a CASA. So that is part of the goal of having our youth advisory board. And we try to have our youth come in and speak at our events, connect them to the community as much as, to the CASA community as much as we possibly can.
My mind is racing with ideas that I dare not say in television because I can't commit other organizations. But if the CASA program gets better recognized, there are places like along Route 1, for example, we have those LED billboards that, you know, 1 minute it's, you know, for buy a Frisbee and the next minute it's buy a hula hoop or whatever the ad is, right? If CASA could get on there and like learn more about CASA in some kind of public service relationship, who knows? Well, who knows what they might see across the street at, say, a sports entertainment complex?
Right.
Because this is, and again, I mean no disrespect, but everything we've talked about here, and we only have a few minutes left. I'm hating that we have on a time limit right now, but you talked about your life experience and what brought you to the CASA role that you're in right now, which is about as intense a situation as we never want our child to be in. Do you have any fun? Like, no, I don't mean that as a silly question. Do you go to Red Sox games, or do you go to football games or basketball games, or do you go to Newport and look at the yachts? I don't care what it is, but some levity.
That's one of the
I don't know who would answer that, the two of you.
I'd like to answer that. One of the things that I found the most enjoyment with is really taking the kids and showing them new experiences, taking them to the MFA museum, I've taken them to Celtics games,
or the beach,
to
depending
George's
on
Island,
where they've grown up. You know, you never know.
Island, apple picking. But one of the things I want to interject is that a lot of the volunteers, we're normal people. My career has been in IT, growing up the ranks of IT. I've never had any involvement with social services and didn't really even have an interest in that. And most of the volunteers are just normal people in normal jobs. And the thing that's so unknown and interesting is with a little bit of effort, just getting involved with one kid and being a support for them, and taking them to do things and going to meetings and make sure that they're getting heard and that they're getting the services that they need. Really, we are almost like a surrogate parent in terms of if you're really this is a kid I'm interested in, I'm going to make sure they're getting what they need.
Marlo, can you give, because Marlo has been with the organization for 10 years and he is truly a shining star amongst all of our volunteers. I call them earthly angels because I really believe that they are. But Marlo, I think it's just worthwhile for you to give a real example of one of the kiddos' lives who you have you've changed and set them on a completely different path and trajectory for success.
And I think you know who he's going to talk about.
I do.
But I have
I
to say
do.
this. I have to say this, my friends. We're going to have to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, only because of the way this works. Can you do that in 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll wrap up and give Nicole the last word?
Yeah. I think so. So there's a boy I've worked with since he was 13 years old. He's now about to turn 17.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot of trauma in his life, and he was living at a group home. And when I was assigned to him and met him the first time, they were always very cautious and fearful of who is this new person? Are they really going to be interested in me? But and I would go to see him every couple of weeks and call and see how he was. But for the first 2 months, when I would tell him I'm coming on Saturday, I'll be there, he would call me an hour before. Are you still coming? Half an hour before. Are you still coming? And it took literally 2-3 months before he had the confidence to know.
You're choking me up.
Okay, he's going to be here, and
His
and then
trust.
Think that the trust was there, and things blossomed from there. And he now wants to go to a veterinary school. He's doing well in high school and help with tutoring, and just the blossoming and the change that's happened with this kid in terms of being very introverted and fearful, and how he's outgoing and happy and confident, and he's going to go places.
And CASAs make a difference. This is what they do every day. They make a difference in the lives of kids. Their outcomes are better. They do better in school. They're more likely to get the resources that they need, and it gives them a real shot at life.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful for our CASAs, and I'm so grateful for all of your viewers. And I think that Marlo said something really important, which is our CASAs are everyday people.
Right.
Just doing really good things. And so if someone wants to volunteer for the organization
Or donate.
to the organization.
And it doesn't have to be money. It could be a canoe, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, we don't
like,
have anywhere to put it, but
Oh, yeah. Because I'm sorry,
Bicycle.
Change to a bike
Right.
rack on Merrimack. Okay, that was stupid of me. I'm sorry.
nothing is,
But
no,
it
it's not
doesn't have to
stupid.
be monetary, in other words. It can be services or experiences
Absolutely,
or
Absolutely.
exposure to, say, business practices or something like that.
Absolutely. And I think the best way to get involved is to go to our website, which is Boston CASA.
BostonCasa.org.
.org.
One word. Boston
One word.
CASA. It's Boston, CASA.
Yes.
Charlie Alpha Sierra Alpha.org.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to get in trouble for going long, but is there anything in your notes that you wanted to make sure you hit on while we're talking? And then while you're looking over your notes, I'll ask Marlo, how long do you expect to do this? Or are you going to burn that candle right to the end?
I'm going to burn it for as long as I can, and there's no end in sight. At least a few more years, yes.
Yeah.
And, there's very rewarding as well. I mean, you're making a difference by making sure the kids get what they need, but the things that you're getting yourself in terms of working with younger kids and seeing what's going on in their lives and watching the joy around seeing them appreciate the experiences that they're getting, the things you're introducing them to, it's equally rewarding.
Your story was moving, but I cry at long distance phone commercials. Like, I'm terrible, right? Excuse me. And your story is incredible as an executive, and as what you went through as a child in a foster environment. I'm not going to comment whether it was a good one or a bad one. I know that's way not in the time we have, unfortunately. But thank you both.
Thank
Bless
you.
you both.
Thank you again for having
This
us.
is really an incredible organization, and I hope, Paul, I hope that people that see this see the, if you will, gravity of what these people do and the impact that they can have on a kiddo, a young child or a young adult's life. And I hope you help these people out with any way that you can and volunteer. Until then, I'd like to thank Paul Beck, our engineer, behind the glass, as they say, right? And our producer, Jerry Love, who blessed me with talking with these two wonderful people, and for you tuning in. So I'm Steve Uden. This is Around Foxborough. Sorry you got a little teary-eyed there. And God bless you all, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
You're done.